get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
RNC night 2 in the bag. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, and you can follow me on Twitter if you don't already at Peoples_Pundit. All right. No wily little tickers this morning, at least not right now. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook. All right. And don't forget to subscribe to the page on YouTube. So I guess my little tweet's getting a bunch of attention, huh? Yeah, Joe Biden is definitely falling, and everybody knows it. That's why you're not seeing media polling, but you will see other polling pretty soon. So you'll have some out by us in a little bit. We have been hired to poll for a media outlet. You will see that soon. Joe Biden is absolutely on the way down. You will also see somebody else's polling out at noon. He is on the way down. I'm telling you. And it's, here's the difference. Trump is actually ticking up a little bit, which is different. Throughout this election cycle, basically, it's been Donald Trump holding pretty much steady and Joe Biden bobbing up and down based on how much crap he's taken over Hunter Biden or his dementia problems. Or I'm serious. So it really wasn't, Joe Biden falling and Donald Trump gaining. This time, it's different. So, and actually, that's kind of pre-convention development. But yeah, I got to tell you, I couldn't get wonderful guy. Just couldn't get him off the phone. Had to deal with somebody today to get my son his first phone. Wonderful guy. But I'm like, I got to go. I got to get to work. I got to go. So I was like racing last minute. So here we go. All right, let's take a look at why last night, contrary to what, the geniuses on cable and network news will tell you, it may have actually been a more successful night. Now, night one has to be the night that lays foundations and the thematics, the themes, that all has to be put into effect. But it was such a big night that it was basically in the back of my mind, how possibly could the Republicans keep this energy going? How could they possibly keep this high-level production going? How could they have as much of a successful night as they did on day one? For those of you who have not been around forever, Republicans don't put on shows this good. Their conventions suck. The Democrats of Hollywood come in. Everybody's rocking and rolling. I mean, it's really much, much more higher production value. And Republicans just don't do that. Last night, they went a little bit different of a direction on how they told the story, but it was no less compelling. And I'll show you. We'll take a look at some videos in a bit. The bottom line is, and this kind of throws the media for a loop, Laura, they don't really seem to understand why it is that successful to do something like this. So, Chris Wallace was really nauseous all night because there was no George Bush. There was nobody with a last name Bush. There was nobody with a last name Clinton. There was nobody with a last name Obama, to tell them what to think. These were just middle Americans, average Americans, working Americans. They were the forgotten men and women that Donald Trump spoke to in 2016, who gave, like his wife said, who is his best advocate, by the way. Eric had a great speech as well. But when I saw the lineup, a lot of his family speaking, I'm like, but in truth, Eric gave a great speech. He did. And the ending was a solid ending. But his wife is a great advocate. And she said, I know you are the men and women who took a chance on my husband.
I love her.
A businessman with no political experience. We have not forgotten you. No matter the relentless attacks from the media, my husband will not forget you, and he will not stop working for you. Listen, folks, if you don't realize the value of that television last night, then you need a new line of business. You need to be in a new profession because you're not good at your job at all. The everyday average man and woman, and then also those who have fallen victims to the political class with baseless smears like Nick Saban. All right. The lobster fisherman from Maine who did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016, the dairy farmer, the CFO of a dairy farmer company in Wisconsin, who was saying that before Donald Trump came in, dairy farmers were in the middle of the Great Depression for dairy farmers. Now we milk 1,000 cows, with what did she say? An advanced or sophisticated system that basically milks the cows themselves 3 times a day. So now when something like this pandemic comes along and the stupid idea to shut down the economy comes along, they could take something like that. Dairy farmers were in big trouble under Barack Obama and Joe Biden. That is absolutely true. A lot of farmers were. But dairy farmers were in big trouble. Government has been, what's the word I'm looking for, Laura? They have been meddling in the dairy farmer market since Roosevelt, I think, right? And they have fixed prices, set markets,
And it's to make America not self-sufficient.
Really, to interrupt the free market. And Donald Trump's administration took a totally different approach to that. And dairy farmers are doing better. I mean, that's a matter of fact. It's a matter of economic fact. All right. But let's take a look at some of this. And then we'll show you the reactions afterward. Okay. Which is equally important. Donna Brazile had a complete and total meltdown 2 nights ago, bumbled her way off of the panel on Fox News. And then in the morning, flipped out on Tammy Bruce because she had no other explanation for why there were so many diverse voices willing to speak. And then also, by the way, never mind. I'll get that clip in a second. Let's first, I think I'm going to go right to this one, and I want to focus on this one. Why? For a few reasons. One is, I'll be honest with you, is a personal bias reason. I have been the one who has been saying that the right Republican could take the state of Minnesota for many, 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 many years. All right.
Many.
Michigan was always fool's gold in my eyes to the Republican Party of yesteryear. Okay. By the way, who is this Republican Party? Does everybody else remember Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan's Republican Party? Pretty damn white. Am I right?
It's a diverse.
No diversity in that Republic. I mean, there was, but not like this. No way. That, why too? Because it was a party that spoke largely to elite white people because that's all they cared about. I mean, really, GOP establishment platform spoke to those people. It did not speak to working class people. And working class people are white, brown, black, Asian. I mean, it always was going to cross demographic borders, demographic boundaries, when you had a working class message that was more attitudinal and less ideological.
If you're a hard worker.
Why? Because black people work too. Yeah. Right. Because Hispanics work too.
Amen.
Duh. And in fact, the Podesta emails, like I think I mentioned this yesterday, that they prove it, man. They were terrified of Donald Trump. They were terrified. They're, oh my God, he's a celebrity. Maybe the usual racial identity politics won't work on him. We better put it in overdrive. We better take it to a whole new level. And they did, with the help of their fake media allies. All right, but I'm going to this speech for this reason. Number one, I told you so. Number two, all right. Number two, this is how he could be reelected. If he doesn't focus on these people, and his wife made a great case to those women that he slipped with a little bit, and there's no doubt. All right, that was an enormous plea to the kind of voter that he's slipped with, the white suburban woman. And I don't mean it in the media's definition. Yeah. I'm talking about really everyday suburban women. I am not talking about the one who drives a Benz and lives in the $1.5 million condominium, you know, like in upscale Philadelphia. Those are liberals. All right. And her friend who was just naturalized 2 years ago. Those are liberals. This is the message that got Donald Trump elected. This is the message that almost flipped New Hampshire. This is the message that came this close to flipping Minnesota. And this is what was important last night.
I am Bob Vasilovich, mayor of Eveleth, a small town in the Iron Range of Minnesota. My father and grandfather earned their livings mining the raw materials that made the steel that built America. This election is a make or break for workers who are carrying on the legacy of men like them. Since the Iron Range economy is vulnerable to economic trends and to foreign trade, we have always needed a strong voice in Washington. We looked to Democrats to fill that void for many years because we actually thought they cared about our welfare. Not anymore. The radical environmental movement has dragged the Democratic Party so far to the left, they can no longer claim to be advocates of the working man. This is hard for me to say because I am a lifelong Democrat. But for far too long, members of both parties allowed our country to be ripped off by our trading partners, especially China, who dumped steel into our markets and slapped tariffs on our products. And what did so-called leaders like Joe Biden do? Nothing. The human cost has been devastating. We lost thousands of jobs. We lost a generation of young people who had to leave the Iron Range to find a livelihood. And worst of all, we lost hope. Then something unexpected happened. A straight-talking New Yorker burst onto the scene, promising to stand up to China and the rest of the world on behalf of the American worker. 4 years later, the Iron Range is roaring back to life, and we have one man to thank, President Donald Trump. He made good on his promises by cutting our taxes, rolling back senseless regulations, and delivering trade deals that put America's interests first. But the fight is not over. Joe Biden has allowed radicals like AOC to craft his environmental policies. Their so-called Green New Deal is a job-killing disgrace dreamt up by people who don't live in the real world. But Biden is too weak, too scared, and too sleepy to stand up to the radical left. He has been doing nothing in Washington for 47 years. Why would year 48 be any different? President Trump won't back down to anybody. He delivered the best economy in our history, and he will do it again for all of us. The Iron Range's economic future and survival is at stake, and so is America's. We know we can count on President Trump to fight for us and win. Let's make sure he wins on November 3rd. God bless America.
Woo! Listen, maybe to Chris Wallace and the other clueless, overpaid, talentless morons in the media class don't understand what that man just said and don't understand why the Iron Range could put Donald Trump over in the state of Minnesota, but it nevertheless makes it any less true because they're ignorant, right? So that was a big deal. All right. And also we're going to hear from some people from Minnesota, or one, and we're going to hear from others like that caller. And, the bottom line is the media goes out. Their response is almost worse. Okay. To some of these things that we saw last night, their response is almost worse than the actual damage the speech did. So you have somebody come out and do what is that's a highly effective segment, right? Give a highly effective endorsement, and then the way they react makes them look even bigger of a fool. So maybe they got people going, that makes me think about this a little bit. You know what? I really got to marinate on this vote. We're only talking about 7 to 9% of the population, folks, in any given time, right? And then the media comes out and reaffirms why they're thinking of it, Laura, right? Mm-hmm. So look, this is the story of John Ponder, and I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's a long story. John Ponder was a bank robber. He was caught by Special Agent Richard Beasley. He was a bank robber. He was in drugs. All right. And he goes on to tell his story, and he's black, by the way. Okay. This is like, all right, a big deal. So he went off the thought plantation, like Vernon Jones called it the other day. And as he's waiting to be sentenced, he's like, you know what, God, I'll make a deal with you. I think we've all been here before, right? I'll make a deal with you. If you crawl into the robe of that judge and give me a lesser sentence, I kid you not, I will serve you for the rest of my life. Okay. And he got a lesser sentence. And the judge even, the judge even said, I don't know why I'm going to do this. I mean, I'm sure maybe Beasley and him, some of the best American stories, Laura, are these like criminals who are chased by these lawmen, and then the lawman catches the criminal, and then they become good friends, like Frank Lucas and Richie Robbins, right? These are some of the greatest stories. And here is and then here last night we have the story of Richard Beasley and John Ponder. Okay. And then Trump does something never done before in the history of conventions. He pardons John Ponder on live television.
So now I'd like to invite John's wife, Jamie, to join us as I grant John, I'm not sure you know this, a full pardon. So I don't know if you know that, Jamie. Come on over here. It's just an honor. And you have done incredible work.
Thank you, sir.
And all of Las Vegas and all of Nevada and all of every place in this country is very proud of you, the job you've done, bringing people back. And you're right, I was supposed to be there for 5 minutes. I stayed for an hour and a half because it was so interesting to me. Congratulations to both.
Thank you, sir.
Richard, thank you very much for the job you do.
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I'll give it to Jamie. What do you think?
So John Ponder, for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do know me, you know how much I care about this kind of stuff. All right. Criminal justice, the opioid crisis. For those of you who don't know, John Ponder runs a 501c3 charity that is dedicated to helping felons who have paid their debt to society become productive members of society again. All right. Like I said before, the media's reaction sometimes, they just do themselves in. This is Kenneth Vogel. Okay. For those of you who don't know who Ken Vogel is, he is he works now for the New York Times. He used to work for Politico. He was exposed in WikiLeaks, right? He called himself a hack for the Democratic Party. And he basically asked the DNC to edit, right? So I guess he didn't have an editor at Politico, but he asked the Democratic National Committee to edit his stories for him and John Podesta, right? Anyway, here he is on Twitter, and he says, now he's by the way, for that, he got a promotion to the New York Times. All right. John Ponder's story is inspirational, but he should be endorsing a candidate for president. But should he be endorsing a candidate for president while being identified as the founder and CEO of Hope for Prisoners, which, as a 501c3 nonpartisan nonprofit group, is barred from participating in partisan politics? All right, let me just be as blunt and clear as possible. Hey, Ken, idiot. He's an individual. His group cannot be involved in partisan politics. He can't push a platform or an individual candidate's campaign. But because you are a founder of a 501c3 and run a charity organization, you don't lose your First Amendment right, moron. And it takes more than a bad reporter to not just pick up the phone and call somebody who knows the law to ask them their opinion before, as a journalist, you put some garbage out like this. It takes a bad person. Take a shower, bro. Take a shower. You're disgusting. Take a shower. But you know what? That's what. You walked right into it because you're a stupid, ignorant white elite who just tried to launch a baseless smear against a black man who had that experience you all want us to talk about, right? Only he went in a different direction. Instead of blaming society for why he was a criminal, instead of blaming people that you call the other for why he had the experience in life that he had, he took personal responsibility. He paid his debt to society, and now he's trying to pay it forward tenfold. And you smear him like this. You're a piece of trash, man. Anyway, Laura, you want to say something? Look, I'm sorry. People like that don't even deserve personal or professional courtesy. You're disgusting, man. Like I said, go shower.
I just want to say that understand individualism. They are a collective.
No, they don't. You're right.
And end of story. That's all I got to say about that.
She's totally right. That's the difference. Remember when we were talking yesterday, guys, about Andrew Pollock's speech and restorative justice? They don't understand the concept at all of responsibility, because that is, of course, and the word was used, the term was used in the first day of the RNC, identifying what is American. Rugged individualism, okay? And we can get rid of that just a news thing. Yeah, rugged individualism. All right. Everybody wants to add a negative connotation to that. With rugged individualism, which the Europeans could never understand about America. They just never could. I get this. They're barbaric, right? We carry guns. The Wild West, they've 200 years. They've been trying to figure this out. With rugged individualism comes personal responsibility, a positive ambition, and drive. And then instead of the philosophy like they have of restorative justice, where you have to look at the criminal as a victim of something in society that made them a criminal, personal responsibility says, you know what? I screwed up. I'm going to take this advantage, this opportunity for personal growth, to pay my debt. And then when I'm done, maybe I can pay it forward. If individuals are individually on a path to self-actualization, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to bring in Abraham Maslow, whatever you want to call it, to virtue, like our founders would call it, the pursuit of virtue, right? Virtue and morality, whatever it is. Rugged individualism promotes that, or the idea of individualism in general. It promotes that. Why? Because you can't collectively do that crap. Now, can you? You have to promote it within each and every person. And then collectively, we are better societies and communities. Look, I'm not going to, harp on Ken here, but you could have just picked up the phone, man. And you could have just called a lawyer. But because he stepped off your plantation, you tried to smear the man. What the hell have you done with your life? Aside from print fake news, give each other stupid little awards, pass the pate palette. I mean, what? You do nothing with yourself, man. You contribute nothing to this society. Nothing of any value that makes everyday Americans and everyday people's lives better. He's trying to bring people back into society. He deserved a pardon. I mean, really, man, just go look in the mirror a little bit, man. How do some of these people brush their teeth in the morning? I honestly don't know. I don't know how people brush their teeth. Maybe, you know what? I'm sick. Maybe. Anyway, not everybody is putting their head in the sand and, pretending like none of this is effective. And it's 10:26 already. We're almost through this segment. I'd like to roll into it. All right. I will just do this. 10:26. We do have a full-time. Speaking of fake news and smears, for the first time, Nick Sandmann got to give his speech, or really what he did was get to tell his story to the American people about what happened to him as a 15-year-old boy. He is now 16. For those of you who don't know, I can't believe there are still people on Twitter. Imagine still believing that Nick Sandmann did anything that the media said he did, and that Nathan Phillips was just an elderly Native American man. Imagine being that stupid. You still believe that. All right. Anyway, here's Nick Sandmann, and then we'll talk about the media's reaction again.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Sandmann, and I'm the teenager who was defamed by the media after an encounter with a group of protesters on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial last year. Before I begin, I'd like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to share some of my story and why it matters so much to this November's election. In 2019, I attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C., where I demonstrated in defense of the unborn. Later that day, I bought a Make America Great Again hat because our president, Donald Trump, has distinguished himself as one of the most pro-life presidents in the history of our country, and I wanted to express my support for him too. Looking back now, how could I have possibly imagined that the simple act of putting on that red hat would unleash hate from the left and make myself the target of network and cable news networks nationwide? Being from Kentucky, the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, my classmates and I visited the Lincoln Memorial. I found myself face to face with Nathan Phillips and other professional protesters looking to turn me into the latest poster child showing why Trump is bad, while the media portrayed me as an aggressor with a relentless smirk on my face. In reality, the video confirms I was standing with my hands behind my back and an awkward smile on my face that hid two thoughts. One, don't do anything that might further agitate the man banging a drum in my face. And two, I was trying to follow a family friend's advice, never to do anything to embarrass your family, your school, or your community. Before I knew what was happening, it was over. One of Mr. Phillips' fellow agitators yelled out, "We got him. It's all right here on video. And we won, Grandpa." What I thought was a strange encounter quickly developed into a major news story, complete with video footage. My life changed forever in that one moment. The full war machine of the mainstream media revved up into attack mode. They did so without researching the full video of the incident, without ever investigating Mr. Phillips' motives, or without ever asking me for my side of the story. And do you know why? Because the truth was not important. Advancing their anti-Christian, anti-conservative, anti-Donald Trump narrative was all that mattered. And if advancing their narrative ruined the reputation and future of a teenager from Covington, Kentucky, well, so be it. That would teach him not to wear a MAGA hat. I learned what was happening to me had a name. It was called being canceled, as in annulled, as in revoked, as in made void. Canceled is what's happening to people around this country who refuse to be silenced by the far left. Many are being fired, humiliated, or even threatened. And often, the media is a willing participant. But I would not be canceled. I fought back hard to expose the media for what they did to me, and I won a personal victory. While much more must be done, I look forward to the day that the media returns to providing balanced, responsible, and accountable news coverage. I know President Trump hopes for that too. And I know you'll agree with me when we say that no one in this country has been a victim of unfair media coverage more than President Donald Trump. In November, I believe this country must unite around a president who calls the media out and refuses to allow them to create a narrative instead of reporting the facts. I believe we must join a president who will challenge the media to return to objective journalism. And together, I believe we must all embrace our First Amendment rights and not hide in fear of the media or from the tech companies or from the outrage mob either. This is worth fighting for. This is worth voting for. And this is what Donald Trump stands for. Thank you all for listening to me tonight. And one more thing. Let's make America great again.
Boom. All right. Yeah, real quick before I get into it. So he was 17, right? So some of Robert's clients were younger, but he was 17 at the time. He recently turned 18. So I'm going to I'll show some of these people. Okay. This is Joe Lockhart. All right. Joe Lockhart, he works for CNN. All right. He is an opinion guy and a former comms for Clinton. All right. I'm watching tonight because it's important, but I don't have to watch this snot-nosed entitled kid from Kentucky. Snot-nosed entitled kid from Kentucky. This man's employer just had to pay an undisclosed amount of money, which everyone views to be tons. All right. Because his organization defamed a minor, a teenager. And he calls him a snot-nosed little entitled kid because he's white. That's why. He's entitled because he's white, not because his station makes him entitled, but because of the color of his skin. Joe, you are a self-loathing racist. That is by definition. You don't know Nick Sandmann. You don't know anything about him. The only thing you know is that his skin color is white. Your organization, which is a propaganda organization that doubles as a fake news network, okay, was wrong. You understand that? They were wrong. And he calls him a snot-nosed entitled kid. Here's another one. Let's take a look real quick at another one. Because these people show no ability for personal growth. None. They can't admit they're wrong. They have no ability. They are small people. These are, look, guys, I got to tell you, the political journalists in this country, they're not good people. Talk about entitled. He's got some nerve calling anybody entitled. They're some of the most entitled people in our society. Here's Jeff Yang, also a CNN opinion. Hey, Nick, Sandman, whatever, I watched your speech tonight at the RNC 2020, Convention 2020 with an open mind. Yeah, I bet you did. Thinking I might hear something that would convince me of your position that you were an innocent victim of a cruel media. I was disappointed but not surprised to hear otherwise. And he goes on this thread. All right. Thinking, like laying out what he thinks Nick should have said to him, right? You make the mistake, Jeff. Nick didn't need to explain himself to the media. You need to explain yourself to him. And in fact, that's what your employer had to do.
Who's the adult?
It does that. We'll get to that. But I'm just talking about the facts of what happened. He was not in a position to have to explain himself to you. You found yourselves in a position to have to explain yourselves to him, a teenager. You were supposed to be the adults, the responsible professionals. He is the teenager. I'm not going to call him a child. The only thing Nick Sandmann had to do was for the first time show Americans how the media refuses to ever explain themselves to them. They're supposed gatekeepers, right? Even where their offenses are so egregious, as was absolutely the case with Nick Sandmann. Okay? I mean, this is like these people, they're something, man. You totally misunderstood. You totally misunderstood his role there. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we will go over some of the But again, I'm trying to highlight today, it's not only that the RNC is doing such a good job doing what they needed to do. And they are. I'm not really sure anybody can objectively say that there's any comparison between this convention and the one we heard last week. And I think Melania Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, really put the icing on the cake of that last night. When you compare the former First Lady's speech last week to the current First Lady's speech this week, Michelle Obama was outclassed. The woman who said, when they go low, we go high, was completely outclassed. All right. So I'm also trying to show that it's their reaction that is reaffirming what the RNC is trying to convey. And it's making it even more successful. All right. All right. It is 10:36. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. We'll be back in a hot minute right after this quick break. Enjoy the ballad, Grammy considered Bowen Band.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, we're back, folks. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, and you can follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit right there. Follow PPD at PPD News. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook. All right, I know you Facebook users. Mosey on over to Facebook and click the like button on People's Pundit Daily. That will also give you when Facebook Live, when we're about to go live on Facebook. That one apparently is not having any troubles. But of course, subscribe to the channel on YouTube as well. And the best way to support the show is, of course, to subscribe to PPD, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. All right. Listen, I really want to get back to this convention because I want to talk about polling data, but I'm going to lay this all out first. Okay. Because, we're really going to start kicking it up into gear this week. This show will start to be basically a daily overview of nightly collections for responses. All right. Or at least a summary or a synopsis of what we see. And then you will be getting results twice a month. Right. So first of the month, which, or around the end of the prior month, you'll get national polling. Then 2 weeks, you'll get battleground states, Rust Belt, battleground states. And then 2 weeks, you'll get national. But in between that period of time, I'm going to show you what we see. All right. And we really get cranking up this today, right? But yesterday, we did dip our toe into one of the other projects. And it's funny because it's funny. I'm looking at what I'm seeing at the RNC, and there's something that's really like jumping out at me. All right. 2 things that were smart. This repeated highlight of what is going on in these cities and the violence in Kenosha and Mark Hemingway. Again, if you guys don't follow Molly's husband on Twitter at Herminator, he said on Twitter yesterday, and he was totally right, because I'm reading responses as he says it. It was like perfect. And trying to read responses, pay attention to the RNC and scan through Twitter. And as I'm doing it, everything just came together at once. So I'm watching at the RNC, them like hammer this going on, in around the country. And then Herminator says the RNC should just cut away every couple of minutes to Kenosha, right? And they should, and then right in a response, somebody says in the open-ended question, I'm a Democrat. I chose Donald Trump. Why did you choose Donald Trump? Because I can't have my country devolve into chaotic violence. My community is right up the road, or whatever, and this could be temporary. Okay. This could be temporary, but again, for the first time, serious time, Joe Biden is falling. Donald Trump is rising. It was just kind of like, here's Trump, and then this is Biden, right? Going along. That's what was happening. Biden's level of support was rising up, dipping down, rising up, dipping down. And Donald Trump was just steady, 42, 43%, while Biden bounced up and down. Okay. And that's not good enough. You can't win an election in the low 40s, folks. You just can't. Now, there will be third parties on the ballot. I think that, listen, as a warning to other pollsters right now, you better start putting third party options on your ballot, because you're going to miss some stuff. I'm telling you, you're going to miss something. All right. Yeah, but no, I don't want them to fail. I want the industry to succeed, because if the industry succeeds, then we all will succeed. Like eventually people, it already has happened, Laura, because of their blunder. It's like, oh, I think you're right wing. I don't listen. You're fake poll. I think you're left wing. I can't listen. You're fake poll. That is not how this is supposed to go. And I don't think we can take another miss. I don't. Not a wild big miss. I just think it'll be the end of us in public trust. Not, it will take, or at least it will take cycles and cycles and cycles to come back from that, So anyway, I am not the only one, all right, seeing this. And I put that out on Twitter earlier today, because I told you guys last week, it's not just about watch what their polling shows and maybe how they worded questions, how they ordered the surveys. It's about timing, how the media times the release of their surveys, how they even conduct them. When did they get into the field? Are they in the field right now measuring the impact of this convention? You're telling me they weren't in the field after the Biden convention? The best I have seen yet was a bump that showed any kind of a bump for Biden was a 5-point bump in favorability. He's not doing that great so far in our favorability. He's still better than Trump, but he's not doing that great. So where if this becomes an who do you like more? Then Biden's got such a big disparity, that he can use his favorability to carry the day. That's just simply not going to happen. Not from last night anyway. That's just not going to happen. I mean, he's better than Trump, but he's not popular. He's not above water. Not yet. He's not. He's underwater by about 4 points. So it's just not as bad as Donald Trump is, which still, by the way, is not he is not so unpopular. The two are separated by like -4, -8. That is not that big of a statistical disparity. So if it becomes an election about, well, who do you like more? Well, I don't really like Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. And especially those voters who are actually persuadable. They're not even looking at who they like more. It's just true. This is really successfully the RNC thus far. Anyway, it's day 2, night 2. Let's see what happens on night 3 and 4. But they have successfully made this about policy and the direction of the country, because you can see it. You can see it, folks. And by the way, they did it with the help of the alliance. the big media hate machine and Democratic Party alliance. They work together. The media with the Ken Vogels of the world making these stupid kind of reactions. I mean, I know that doesn't sink into voters, but the collective response, the collective shaming, people see that. If they don't, see individual things, they still see the collective shame effort. And then the Democratic Party and their inability to get their militia under control, which is becoming a serious problem for them. I actually thought, look, the buck stops with the president. People will ultimately say, Donald Trump said he was the law and order president. And there are people who say that, like, why isn't Trump doing anything more about it? He needs to make very clear that he has offered to give Wisconsin the National Guard and the local officials in Kenosha, because they had a swing. Typically that has, been voting. It's a swing area. And so this guy is allowing businesses to burn, cops to be attacked, civilians to be attacked, and he won't accept Donald Trump's help. So Trump is going to have to make that clear, because we do see voters clearly that, well, why is Trump letting this go on? But the totality is that they really are now. This is becoming pretty clear that these are Biden voters. These are Biden supporters. This is Biden's militia. This is his militia. All right. And if you don't take my word for it,
I do think that what you said, what's happening in Kenosha, is a Rorschach test for the entire country. And I think this is a blind spot for Democrats. I think Democrats are ignoring this problem or hoping that it will go away. And it's not going to go away. And so, unless someone comes up with a solution over the next 73 days or 70, however many days.
68 days.
68 days. So it's not going to, the problem is not going to be fixed by then. But what they can do, and I think maybe Joe Biden may be afraid to do it. I'm not sure. Maybe he won't. Maybe he is. He's got to address it. He's got to come out and talk about it. He's got to do a speech like Barack Obama did about race. He's got to come out and tell people that he is going to deal with the issue of police reform in this country, and that what's happening now is happening under Donald Trump's watch, and on Donald Trump's watch. And when he is the president, Kamala Harris is the vice president, then they will take care of this problem. But guess what? The rioting has to stop. Chris, as you know and I know, it's showing up in the polling. Mm-hmm. It's showing up in focus groups. It is the only thing right now that is sticking. And the Democrats tonight stuck with that, right? And they also stuck with the theme that you said, the coronavirus. You got coronavirus and you have Kenosha.
Right. What polling, Don? Your organization hasn't released anything of substance since this started. What polling? What focus groups? I told you guys, if you think that they don't tank polls, you haven't been paying attention. They do. They spike them all the time. They spiked it before Iowa, and they spiked their poll of the 2018 gubernatorial election. You're bouncing this up and down.
Sorry, guys.
They do it all the time. I mean, let's not be a fool here. What is he talking about? And by the way, he goes on, don't have the whole thing. He was going on to say Biden's falling. It's hurting him. Where? I didn't see that CNN poll. They're so full of crap. This is where, you know what, because it becomes, if I was real clear politics, I'd be angry at that kind of stuff. Because ultimately you're hurting my product. Right? And I like Matt. And I think Matt, I can't speak for him, but I'm sure he understands what I'm saying. I'm sure the thought has crossed his mind before. The Real Clear Politics average suddenly loses a lot of value when you have pollsters playing games like that. Right? There's no doubt. It definitely is hurting. There's no doubt. And the coronavirus, I don't know how much more they can squeeze out of coronavirus. They can't keep the pandemic around forever. They can keep, the fear porn around. I think what they're thinking, Laura, is that they just need to scare enough seniors, because they are the vulnerable ones, and those are ultimately Trump supporters. There's another story though going on here, and I started talking about it before with some of these with the mayor from the Iron Range. Okay, Donald Trump's coalition in 2020 is not the same coalition as 2016. It's not. All presidents usually add more. Trump is playing a little tug of war thing, and we'll find out, on Wednesday in November whether or not it ended, or maybe 3 Wednesdays, the way if Democrats get their wish. But maybe we'll find out, whether or not it tended, to be a net gain for him. Barack Obama was the only incumbent president in modern electoral history of how we do things now with the presidential vote to be elected with a smaller share of both the popular vote and the electoral college. All right. If Donald Trump is reelected, as it stands right now, that's almost sure to be the case, but not if things keep going this way. So he could still shift up a couple of states. So maybe he loses Michigan, but he picks up Minnesota and New Hampshire or something I can conceivably see something happen like that. And the bottom line is, it's clear that when I look at the people who are telling us I'm voting for Donald Trump in 2016, there's still a huge overlap, but it is a different coalition. And I'm wondering, and I'll be looking like a hawk. I'll be watching like a hawk to see if we start to see some reverting back to the means, historical vote preference. So like I've told you guys before, it is not uncommon to see some of these white women that we always talk about and focus on when we're the media, especially, to flirt with a Democratic candidate. And then as we get closer to the election, something like this happens and they race back to the Republican. Maybe they don't like him or her, but in the end, they view Republicans as the more responsible party. Okay. And then on the flip side of that, maybe there are black voters who are flirting with the idea of voting for the Republican candidate. And in the end, they either don't vote or they revert back to the Democratic candidate. That is not uncommon. What is different is that these margins are bigger. And you'll see, I don't want to give too much away here. Mm-hmm. It's a bigger gap to race back to, is my point. So Trump doesn't need 18% of the black vote, folks. If 6 or 5% race back, he's still looking at modern day historic shares. And he could, in fact, use them to offset. And then, by the way, gains among Hispanics, it's not just us. I showed you last week. And I did that because so many people will say, it's unbelievable. It's not unbelievable. I mean, and there's a couple things happening there. Working Hispanics don't think like white liberals in the media. They don't come to the same decisions based on the same considerations. And then also the Hispanic voting population got a little bit more Protestant this year. And when they convert from, and we've seen this with ethnic Catholics in the past, right? Irish, Italians. Yes. The farther they get away from the Catholic Church, the more Republican they become. We call it political maturation, not for any other reason other than typically it also comes hand in hand with moving to better neighborhoods, getting better paying jobs, living better lives. We call it political maturation. All right. So there's some things happen there. So that may end up, in fact, being the story here. All right. And then of course, talking about the poll we showed you earlier in the week, the 27% Joe Biden currently is at among working class voters is 5 points below the target we had for Hillary Clinton. And who are these people, right? Could he really squeeze more out of Western Pennsylvania? You damn right he can. And the registration trends tend to suggest he's going to. And then we saw, look, I personally get this all the time. What do you watch? I don't watch Fox. I can't stand Fox News, as you guys all know. I really can't stand him anymore. So for the DNC convention, they assembled the most liberal panel, including Republican commentators, they could possibly assemble. And it's the most favorable toward the DNC that the FNC could put together. And then for Trump's convention, the Republican convention, they assembled the most liberal panel they can assemble on FNC. I mean, they're a joke. They are a joke. All right. They have a clear interest. I watch C-SPAN. And last night on C-SPAN, immediately, and this is the second night in a row that we have seen calls like this. All right. Let me just make sure I get the right one here. Let me make sure. Look, there's two. If we get the wrong one, whatever, let's just play. If we get the wrong one, then you'll get it. We'll go to the next one. Yeah.
I'm a Democrat, and our convention last week is no comparison to what I've seen in just the last 2 nights.
What do you mean?
I'm from Minnesota, where all these riots and looting and the burning started, and I mean, not a mention about us last week, about saving our communities, helping our homeless, rebuilding our businesses. And this convention, just in the last 2 nights, has awakened me that there is hope, that there are people that are willing to fight for us people in our communities.
Barb, are you in the Twin Cities area or outside?
In the Twin Cities.
And
right outside the Twin Cities.
Has some of the protests, have they frightened you?
Oh, absolutely. They've been, 7 miles away with a new John Johnson of our party going into a neighborhood with 200 of Black Lives Matter supporters and terrorizing innocent neighbors in a community. It is scary.
All right, folks. Look, Twin Cities. If you remember, he lost Minnesota last time around. He did well in Iron Range, which he could do better in. I think that's pretty clear. He absolutely could and likely will do better in the Iron Range. His problem was that he really couldn't get above 46, 47% in the Twin City suburbs. That is a Democratic woman. That is the exact kind of Democratic woman who held him at 46, 47% in the Twin City suburbs against Hillary Clinton. If Donald Trump improves in the Twin Cities and improves in the Iron Range even a little bit, he could flip the state of Minnesota. That is what he needs to do to flip the state of Minnesota. That is what it will take. This, I'm not sure. Listen to her, all right? And then just looking at some of the, I can't really, until there's more polling over time, you get to know the electorate more as you interview, which is why I don't really like to stop once I start, because you lose touch with them. You have to get to know these people, right? You have to get a feeling for who they are. You almost do, by the end of an election, think you know them. It's very, very much like that. Honestly, it is. And what I'm saying is, I'm not sure, looking at the numbers that I'm looking at, and I don't get a conversation the way, that kind of C-SPAN caller calls in and then gives the host a conversation. Does it sound like you can change her mind back, is what I'm saying? Or she's petrified? Or are we already in a position where they're going to have to stop this bleeding, and there's only, and there's only really enough that you could, there's only so much more that you could stop. You can't come back from it, is my point. You just can't come back from it. It will only get worse. And that's what Don Lemon was trying to say to Chris Cuomo on CNN. Like, look, Chris, it's hurting. We have to stop the bleeding, because if we continue to bleed, those are going to be voters who are very, very hard to get back. And I'm just not sure. Because it's a very short distance from where she is to this woman.
Helen is in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, on our Democrats line. Hi, Helen, you're on C-SPAN. What did you think of Melania Trump's speech?
I thought it was wonderful. I come from a long line of Democrats, but I have to say I switched parties because I'm so impressed by what our president did. And tonight's, the whole RNC was wonderful. I think Democrats really have to take a look at what has happened to them, how they switched their focus, how they don't stand up for what the American people really stand for. And Melania and everyone who spoke tonight were just excellent. They spoke what the real true Americans are.
Helen, who did you vote for in 2016?
Well, I didn't vote for Trump, but I am now, most definitely. The riots that's going on, what's happening in California and all these countries, I mean, all these states and cities, it's just, is that what we really want? I don't think so. It's amazing how the Democratic Party has changed, and the Republican Party and Donald Trump is the one who's going to take this country and make it better, like he said. And I'm just so impressed.
It's a short distance between the woman in the Twin Cities to her. Because once a voter who really is a persuadable voter, right? Because there just aren't many, all right? But there's enough to shift an election, clearly, obviously. Once you get to that point where you have now associated a party and a candidate with something that really gets your craw, right? Like in 2018, the Mueller thing hurt. There is just no doubt about it. But top issue was healthcare. And Republicans, they're going to take your healthcare. They're going to take your pre-existing condition protections away. That stuck. And once it sticks, it's very difficult to undo it. The only way they could have undid that was if John McCain didn't put his bitter thumb down. And because you can't argue a hypothetical, right? So you can't say, no, it's not true. The bill didn't pass. If it passed, you would see. That's not true. You just can't do it. It's the same reason why Richard Nixon was hurt so bad with the missile disparity, right? Against JFK, who made an argument that he knew Richard Nixon could not rebut because there was classified information. And he was arguing that the Russians had an edge on us with nuclear ballistic missiles technology. And it wasn't true. But it stuck because Richard Nixon couldn't say, no. Look, see, here's the intel report right here. It's top secret, but I got to show it to you just to dispel this myth. You can't. So you got to argue a hypothetical, and it never works. It never works. With them, it's more than a hypothetical. You see it they're seeing it. They're looking at it. It's hard for, how could the media say, well, no, I mean, this Don Lemon he made the case that really is the only case that could be made, which is that Donald Trump is the president and the buck stops with him. And there are some people who still believe it. But once they realize that that's just not true, these are Democrats. I mean, they just celebrated Black Lives Matter. I mean, we just had 2 months of heralding them as a civil rights group. Joe Biden said the death of George Floyd was more important than the assassination of Martin Luther King. When you praise somebody like that in a group like that, then you tied yourself to it. I mean, they had a woman speak at the convention for all of the talk about, what's her name, Delgado. They had a woman speak at the convention who did 21 years in prison and, basically castrated a man with pliers. I mean, how could you can't walk away with it. Now, the media, of course, hid that, but you know what I'm saying? It's these constant associations, and people now are starting to see those associations. So once that switch is flipped, it gets real easy to go from being like the woman who's in the Twin City suburb being the woman who's in Philadelphia, to being a woman who's in the Twin City suburbs. And I'm saying that right. It's a short distance from being committed after just a couple of weeks ago I'm leaning, I'm undecided, maybe I can go both ways. Once they lock in, there's there's credibility to the argument that Robert Barnes makes on What Are the Odds, which is, in truth, maybe they don't know who it is, but they know what they want to vote for. That's why I tell you there is value in early polling. It's just not in the head-to-head race. There's no predictive value in it. You have to decide what it is. You have to extract from the respondents, the electorate, what it is they're looking for in a candidate. What is the direction, right? They want to take the country. And then from there, you have to see basically who's making that argument. Right now, Joe Biden's not going to stand up to these people. He's not going to do it. They may try to make some kind of a speech, but at this point, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Laura, you want to get in on this?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There you go.
Okay, there we go. I just want to say, when you effectively scare a woman, especially a woman who has children, I mean, just in general, they want to flee to safety, to bring their children into a safe environment. The Democrats' message was nothing but dark, gloom, and doom. Meanwhile, the Republicans' first message was, this is my take, day one was, it's okay to be an American, and we know we're great because of you. Day two, however, is more of a, everybody deserves a second chance. So even if you were like teetering, not sure who you wanted, Republicans are saying it's okay. You can come to us and we will protect you.
The diversity too.
And the diversity was beyond amazing.
Yeah. I didn't bring that up. I made a comment, a joking comment, but right, like, whose Republican Party is this? Who are these people? Right. It was because they're trying to reach out. They also want to show and project an image of really anybody can come, because it's not what you're told it is. That's not who we are. We are like you. And it's so far being effective. And what Laura is saying too with women, right? Melania Trump really, that's why I think her speech was not this grandiose speech. It was not this like exceptionally delivered political speech, but she did do something that was a couple of things that were really important. And to speak what Laura was talking about, she spoke to those women, right? So like my husband, is not perfect and he's rough around the edges, but you're safe here. That's what she was doing. She was conveying that message. And right. And he'll never work. He'll never stop working to do that. And he won't forget you. And so that was geared. And by the way, that woman, what did she immediately go to? The First Lady's speech. Yeah. That is immediately what she said. So look, folks, I mean, I don't know how anybody objective, because it's 11:08. I wanted to talk a little bit about some economic data. It's an hour, I think. I got to embargo the stupid poll, man. It's not a stupid poll, but it's an hour. I really wanted. I mean, look. You'll see some new numbers today publicly, and whether you particularly like a certain pollster or not, if the pollster is tracking, then it does matter their results over time. All right, because it's still apples to apples instead of apples to oranges, right? So just remember that. All right, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow, but there's just no doubt. I mean, it's having an impact. It is. And it's only been 2 days. Trump didn't even give his speech yet. Now, I will say this. Trump is not good as a comforter in chief, not a public. He is in private. And I know that because I've seen Louisiana, New Bern. I've seen these areas of natural catastrophes where Donald Trump is a great comforter in chief. The media just never shows it. And then that's not what he puts forward first. So his image is the tough guy image, right? And Joe Biden didn't even try to top him on that. Remember, look, guys, Joe Biden went from being I'm super tough and I'll take Donald Trump behind the woodshed, right? Remember that guy? He's gone now. They put forward, the hapless, fragile, nice, dignified grandpa last week. They didn't even try to outdo him on the tough guy image. You can't outdo Donald Trump on toughness. You just can't. And sure as hell can't do it from a guy like Joe Biden. He just can't do it.
Yeah, but Trump is old school.
Hold on, Laura wants to jump in again. Go ahead.
Yes, all right. Yes. The way I see our president, he's old school, and he's like an Eminem, like every old school man. They're all hard candy shell on the outside, but when something happens, you got to get to the middle of the soft mushiness.
But you've seen it.
But yes, you see it firsthand.
Laura has seen it. So like media, and you will, whether you like Trump or not, you cover him, and then you follow the guy around or go to his events and you'll see it. You will. I mean, even in some of his rallies. So somebody will come up to him or somebody will say something and, this is happening to me. My husband lost his job because of this or whatever it may be. And he'll do that. But the media will never show that. So they show the main things that, that presidents do, their comments and remarks. And he doesn't do the comforter in chief thing when he's in those environments, those events. And Melania, though, she did. And also the coronavirus segment in the beginning, the very first segment of her speech, which I have. There's some of them that are, I just kept it up there for crying out loud. I just had it, Anyway, when she basically says, I know that a lot, that many of you have suffered. I know that many of you are still suffering. And then Donna Brazil, this is the joke this woman is. She turns into, I thought it was interesting. She admitted some of the mistakes her husband made. That is not what she said. She said she was just trying, but she understood. Donna Brazil understood that was a powerful moment. And then she tried to mangle it. She tried to, what's the word? Corrupt it into something it was not, right?
She tried to make it dirty.
Yeah, she tried to corrupt, but she tried to change it. She fabricated something that the first lady said out of whole cloth. She never said, I admit my husband made some mistakes. That is not what she said. She said, I acknowledge that many of you are hurting and many of you have hurt and suffered and many of you have lost and are losing. That is because we're in a global pandemic courtesy of the Chinese government. That is not because Donald Trump she didn't say that's because Donald Trump made mistakes. That is not what she said. She said, we are in the, I know, right? It's so hard to imagine Donna Brazil telling a lie. I'm looking at some of the comments here, right? The woman she portrays herself as this Christian. I mean, I really wanted to get this video of, look, I'll be the first one to admit I'm not a good Christian. I'm not as good as I could be. I don't walk around thumping the Bible. Yes, I know. Yes, that's true. But you know what I'm saying? Like the other day, for instance, okay. Black Lives Matter on the video. They're in the restaurants demanding these white people, put their hands up and raise their fists in solidarity. I'd raise my fist right to their chin.
Face.
Bang! That's kind of crazy. Now, Christ would tell me not to do that, but get the hell away from me. I'm trying to eat dinner with my family. All right. Which, by the way, I'm going to pay for with my hard-earned money. Who the hell do you think you are? So I am not that great of a Christian when it comes to that kind of stuff. When I was at a Night for Freedom in DC and Antifa was out there, I walked right through them. I was hoping. I was hoping. I'm like, do something, dude, because they're cowards. They are. They don't know how to, they're like a shark mentality or pack mentality. You show them fear, or they smell a drop of blood, then they jump and pounce, but somebody, you give them the crazy eye, like, please God, give me an excuse, and that's what you get out of entitled little suburban white kids, I guess. But, all right, Laura wants to say something. It's going to get us in trouble.
I just want to mention Jesus would forgive you for punching that individual because God is about forgiveness as long as you say you're sorry in the end and but you would be sorry afterwards. Now, like I said, if that was me in the situation, I might forget that I'm a Christian for just a moment or two. But after the lesson was taught, I would ask God for forgiveness for my temper and pray for it to get into a better place. But as for defending yourself, though, when they attack you and you feel violent, the Bible says you don't just let people kill you and get in your face. You are allowed to defend yourself biblically.
Christ said, "Turn the look." I don't want to be. We really need to get this situation so we can do, talk. But Christ did say, "Turn the other cheek." I mean, I am not an Old Testament guy, so I know what he'd want me to do. What I'm saying is, that's why I'm saying I'm not as good as I could be. Hilarious comment, by the way, which reminded me it's 11:15 to do the friends of the show thing. But hilarious comment from Glenn. Good Jesus wants me to pound commies. He told me yesterday. Look, they have always folks. These have always been. There should be no shock that these groups are violent. These have always been violent groups. That is how they affect political change. They never do it at the ballot box. They never do it by national referendum. National referendum has been one of the more successful, fascist models. But this is who they are, right? But anyway, I want to stop real quick and say, because also too tonight on Quite Frankly at 7:30. So our good friend Frank over at Quite Frankly, I want to do a friends of the show thing, right? So all these people. Great circle of people, that have done a lot for us, watch the show, get some good political analysis. So we wanted to do a friends of the show segment, right? I'll be on Quite Frankly today at 7:30. Frank, great guy, from politics to ancient astronauts, whatever you want to talk. I mean, just a great show that talks and touches on a lot of stuff. Frank's a good guy. Don't miss my spot on there at 7:30. New York City Guns, Glenn, we shoot it out to him. All right. And we'll add more to the list as we go. And if I missed anybody, I'll make sure we'll put it all on a list because there's a lot of you, but we'll do a friends of the show thing, roll it over the screen and everything, that sounds good. It sounds good to me. All right. But yeah, here we go. 11:17. So I did want to get into some of this economic data. I did.
Questions.
Let's roll through this economic data because it, and then we'll leave the others. We'll leave the questions for the last segment. All right. There was some, not some good economic data. The consumer confidence, the conference board fell in the 80s. Again, last month it had ticked up quite a bit, fell down back into the 80s. That is not a low level. It's just that under Donald Trump, things have been explosive. So like when you go back down to like the average level since 1980, then it looks like it's bad and not a positive development. But moves that I want to get into. Durable goods orders, and I'll go backward because we didn't get to new home sales. I talked about it briefly yesterday. I want to show them the charts. This is a big deal. All right. Let me skirt that over. But durable goods just came out a little bit ago, earlier this morning. New orders for long-lasting manufactured goods. Durable goods are products meant to last. They're manufactured goods meant to last 3 years or more. So think, that's why aircrafts are in this. Think appliances, washers, dryers, dishwashers, things like that. Those are durable goods. Manufactured goods meant to last for 3 years or more. Last month was a big month. We lost a lot in durable goods, okay, during this stupid pandemic shutdown. And then last month, we saw a nice, solid bounce back, about 7.3. That was revised up to 7.7, okay? And then this month, guys, 11.2% increase, back to 230 billion. What does that mean? And by the way, last month was revised up to 7.7, which was 207 billion. All right. So at this moment, we are looking at just straight upward revisions. We're going to end positive on the year. Now, that's also true of a lot of these housing indicators that took big hits before this pandemic. That's true almost across the board. The Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index is now above pre-pandemic levels. The New York one is getting hit a little bit hard, but look, you elected Cuomo. That's on you. Regional manufacturing data is good. The Empire State is hurting themselves, and they're hurting their own indicator. All right, let's look at new home sales. Big deal, because we've been talking about the housing market, how it's going to revive. All right, it has revived. New home sales soared 13.9% to 901,000. That is the highest level. Forget about pre-pandemic. That is the highest level since December 2006. New residential sales, which is the new home sales report, all right, and housing data in the totality of it have defied COVID and the forecasts from economists. All right. I just told you I'm not going to regurgitate it. Forecasts for this report range from a low of 735,000 to a high of 800,000. All right. I don't know why I keep doing that to you guys. Here is, I will draw your attention to the chart. Here is the 1 year. Now you will see why. And I know, look, the NERB, whatever, if I got that, they will declare that this recession ended in May. If they don't, then they're doing something. February was the start of a minor recession because of the stay-at-home orders only. I'm not going to keep repeating that. Go look at the Bureau of Economic Analysis press release. Don't take my word for it. The consensus forecast for this was 774. That's already huge, but we are way beyond pre-pandemic levels. This is a very old series indicator. We have a lot of data for it. You could clearly see a very, very weak Barack Obama administration. And you can, I'll be fair to him. It was a great recession when he took over. It was almost over. So he does not get this credit for bringing us back from the Great Recession. It was the weakest recovery since the Great Depression. When he took office, the recession was almost over. Nothing he did or passed went into effect before the recession ended. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, otherwise known as the stimulus bill, did nothing. And it wasn't even passed before the end of the declared recession anyway. Under Donald Trump, housing was the fourth and final cylinder, not firing on all four, not firing at 100%. So the economy it was a Trump boom, there's no doubt. But the economy was not firing on all four cylinders. And you can see that here. Housing was lagging because all they did was pump more risk into it under Obama. They did not learn their lesson for what caused the housing crisis. They pumped more risk into it. But it never really did anything to generate, exceptional growth anyway. What it took was a strong labor market and rising wages under Donald Trump. Then people said, you know what? I can build that house. You know what? I can go and make an offer on that house. All right. And it's clear. Look, I'm not giving my opinion here. It's on the graph. Anyway, so that is an increase, again, of 13.9%. Last month, initially reported at 776,000, which was the highest since July 2008. All right. July 2007. That one was revised up anyway. So now we have a higher revision. It would have actually been bumped back a little bit, but it doesn't matter because we came in at 901 this month. Here's the medium home sales, the average price. All right. I'm not going to get into that. But again, if you guys go and read this report on People's Pundit Daily, click on this right here if you haven't already. That is all the housing indicators over the last 2 months put together in one story with comments from the chief economists of the National Association of Realtors and the National Association of Home Builders. Housing is booming. It's booming. And it could drag us back in to a whole new era of economic growth if we do not shoot ourselves in the foot. Take that to mean whatever you want. But I am generally saying, if you do what Joe Biden is proposing to do, and you take away the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and cut the corporate tax rate, increase the corporate tax rate back above that 25% threshold, which he proposes to do. 50 years of data in the industrialized world shows the revenue maximizing range and wage growth, low end of 15%, high end of 25%. Trump put us right on the money at 21%. If you increase that, you will stifle wage growth, you will stifle personal income, and that will kill the housing recovery because people don't buy homes when they don't feel like they have enough money coming in to pay the mortgage. Not to mention revenues will go down anyway, Joe. They'll go down anyway. 50 years we put together. All right. Cutting the corporate tax rate boosts worker wages, and it increases revenues to the Treasury as long as you don't go below 15%. That is the long run revenue maximizing range. All right. And if we do, we'll kill this, man. We'll kill it. So just sometimes things can be argued politically and ideologically, but economics is not about that. It is what it is with economics. It will happen. The FHFA house price index shot 9/10 higher in June. So now we're up 5.7% year over year. The Case-Shiller was flat. The home price index, they come out the same day. Fox News, of course, and everybody else chose to focus on that. I think you're probably going to I think you're going to see some big revisions to that, because when housing is booming like this, house prices appreciate. Home prices rise. All right. I know. I mean, if anyone is a homeowner out there, you know what I'm talking about. Home prices are appreciating quickly and have been, actually. So when you have this little inventory forcing home buyers to go in and break ground, that leads to price increases. It does not lead to flat. Plus, the Case-Shiller is a lagging indicator. All right. So look, it's 4 minutes to 11:30. Get your questions into Laura in this last 4 minutes. Deal with my rant for the next couple. When we come back from our 30-second break, we'll answer your questions. All right? Get them in. You're on the right. You're on the left. You're in the middle. Get in your questions. We'll answer them. Let's promote some discussion over here, people. All right?
Let's do this.
This is not the big media hate machine. Let's get some discussion in. Again, to recap, though, the RNC convention. It was not as explosive as night one, but it was as effective, if not more, because they highlighted middle Americans. They highlighted the stories of middle Americans. They highlighted the fears that were not addressed last week. Melania did the role of comforter in chief, and they have not. Again, it is not. It would Democrats made a major mistake ignoring the rioting and the violence. Republicans, they had their own trap too, ignoring coronavirus. If they would have ignored coronavirus, it would have been politically catastrophic. Not only did Melania Trump not ignore coronavirus, she played the role of comforter in chief with it.
She was very motherly.
Yeah. Well, that is what, look, we hate to say it here in America, but the old European model, the social contract was very different than ours. The king was like a father figure. That's why actually most of the history you're taught in school is BS. Our founders looked to the king for help against Parliament, who they viewed to be the tyrants. There's no doubt we still took some of that with us, right? So the presidency is still a very father figure-like role. The first lady is still a very mother figure-like role.
So.
It is what it is. I mean, that's just part of the Western civilization experience. And Americans don't like royalty, or shouldn't anyway. That's why I can't stand when they cover these stupid events from the royals in Britain. Who the hell cares about her baby and this one's wedding and this one's affair and this one likes 10-year-olds. This one, I mean, royals have always been pedophiles. Right? That's true. Come on. Are you kidding me? Not only have they been pedophiles, they've been incestuous pedophiles. I'm talking about the history of Western royalty.
About me.
I'm talking about the history of Western royalty. You'd marry your cousin from Austria who was like 13, or 12. It is what it is. But I don't care about any of those stupid things. They parade out, like Fox will parade out Martha McCowan and cover somebody's wedding. So nobody cares about that. Nobody cares. I didn't get to check the Gallup poll. I will say this about the Gallup poll before we take a real quick break. All right. Gallup has been like textbook response bias. Trump's approval rating was never really rising the way Gallup had it rising. They just had two things, more partisans and more independents that lean conservative. And then when you saw Gallup's falling approval number for Trump, all you saw were less Republican partisans and more liberal independents. That is textbook response bias. All right, meaning for whatever reason, the events that are going on, partisans are more willing to participate in surveys from one side or the other. So Mitt Romney has a great debate performance. Pew goes from being D+5 to R+1. Shocker, Romney's up by 4. Romney was never up by 4 points. He was always down. He just had a very good debate performance, and more Republicans wanted to speak on the phone. That's it. It's very common. It's not an industry secret. All right. If you look into Gallup's PDFs, you'll see that Trump's approval rating never shot that high, but it just did. I hate to tell. I mean, there's the flip side of that is when it goes back down, that's not really real either. Donald Trump really cannot fall into the 30s like George W. Bush did. Why? There are just too many people who are diehard for his base, and then that is not 42% alone. It's just that it's so many of them when you add the others that are more willing to say they somewhat approve of him because they don't particularly like his attitude. They don't like his style, but they like the results and his politics. The positions, the proposals themselves, that adds up above 40. It's not like it was with George W. Bush. It just, or any president who's fallen into the 30s for that matter. The Trump coalition is something different. Yeah, they're diehard. I saw that. Yeah. There's too big of a diehard fan base for Donald Trump. The rest of it is just noise, statistical noise, and response bias. And by the way, they know that. They know it. They just pretend like they don't. And they're pretending like they're not having problems reaching millennial men, working black men, and working class men and women outside of metro areas. They are. It is an industry problem right now. It is terrifying them all. And the media is pretending like they're 100% confident in their product. They are not. They are not. All right. When we get calls asking us, how are you doing reaching those people? What are you doing to do that? All right. Then there's a problem because typically most of these people, their lip is so stiff, they don't allow them to ask somebody like me for advice. All right. It's 11:32, folks. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Follow PPD News at PPD News. And don't forget to like the page on Facebook and subscribe to the page on YouTube. Best way to support the show, of course, is to subscribe to PPD, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. In the next hour and a half, all of those graphic indicators for all of those graphics and data series for the economic indicators we just spoke about will be up there for you to visualize and check out and play with if you are a subscriber. All right. We'll be back in 30 seconds to take your questions. All right. All right. 30 seconds.
I reclaim my time.
Whoa, we're about to go. Oh, okay. I thought she was going to bust one out right now. All right. 30 seconds. We'll be back, folks. All right, we're back from our 30-second break, during which I did not drink water. So I'll be drinking water during one of your question things, even though you guys know I absolutely hate. Can you ask Carm? I just saw a question. Carmtrop, the user is this question right here, and we'll circle back to it. Can we ask that? I want to answer that. All right, but I know there's a lot of people. All right, well, do you think Joe Biden's stay-at-home campaign model will work? And Carm, if we don't get to you and you see it's like 11:50, re-ask that question and I'll keep looking at it. That's a great question. All right, let's take the first. I hate eating and drinking water on camera.
So just put me in the front.
All right, that's a good idea. What am I?
Your first question is from Hurricane from Periscope. What do you think Stephanie Bice's chances of winning Oklahoma?
Yeah. I hate making comments on things that I don't have polling data. But again, well, I mean, of course, we don't know enough yet about which way the presidential race is going to go. But there are some races that I would really like to get some data on before I comment on them. How about ask me in 4 days? Because then I'll have I'll have a better profile of voters, about maybe even 3. Okay.
I'll save it.
3.
All right. So Big Blue wants to know, do you think Bondi's speech had an effect?
Oops. Did I do it right? Yeah, you're off, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, really, it's more than just one. It's the narrative. For the best speeches yesterday, okay, were Melania was important because of the specific demographic that she dealt with. I didn't bring up Ryan Holitz, is that right? Either, but he's obviously talking about mayor of Evelith, right? Yeah. If I said that wrong, I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce the town up there, but it was extremely effective. If you didn't see the beginning of the show, we played the entire thing, and we did for a reason, because there's 2 things Donald Trump would have to do to carry the state of Minnesota. He'd have to increase his margin in the Iron Range. If you open up the voter file in Minnesota, it looks unbelievably bad for Republicans. And you'd wonder, how on earth could Donald Trump have even come that close last time? Those are the Democrats that he has to win over. So it was extremely effective. And there will be, a whole narrative building off of what he said. And then also to the violence in that started in the Twin Cities. He has to increase. He's got to get over, that 47% hump in the Twin City suburbs. So it's a combination of the Iron Range and doing better in those suburbs. They're walking into a trap with one, and with the other, it's just Donald Trump's record. So when somebody like him comes out and testifies for him, on his behalf, the whole first day of the DNC was about Republicans who jumped ship, right? This is why it's effective. Those Republicans were warmongering neocons that really are no longer Republicans. They have been Democrats since 2016. But not all of these Iron Range workers have been Trumplicans since 2016. You understand what I'm saying? There are more Iron Range-like working class voters than there are John Kasich and Colin Powell neocons. So in a heartbeat, I would trade Colin Powell for mayor, and if I butcher it, the mayor of Eveleth, all right? Because his name is Bobby. His name is hard to say, right? So there is no doubt. There's more. This is not even a close political equation. These are the voters that fueled the Democratic Party coalition for most of the 20th and the first of the 21st century. They are now losing. It's a realignment happening right before your eyes. The question is whether or not it'll be enough and quickly enough. Look, history tells you that he really is just an indication, and that's why his speech is so important. History tells us those realignments happen once you start to see signs of them. They're on their way. So come November, you will see how dramatic it was. So, and historically, it's more dramatic than people think before they happen. They usually need a butt-kicking vote before they acknowledge that realignment has happened. So it's not only that it was effective, it's just that's why it was so important. It really does show it. And again, there are far more of him than there are of John Kasich. So take your mailman daddy and have a great life, because you're not going to do anything to win the state of Ohio, but people like him will. Even though it's the wrong, is Minnesota. This is a profile of voters. It's working class voters. They have a very deep connection to the Democratic Party up there. And that's why the state Democratic Party in Minnesota is not the national Democratic Party. They have kept their progressive worker rights roots, but their national party is making it very hard for them to explain what the allegiance is. Why do you still have an allegiance? They are not the party of workers. They are the party of the political elite in this country, and who is currently trying to crush the worker. So, it doesn't make sense,
All right. So Evan Bliss wants to know, what is the likelihood of a Democrat trifecta? How worried should conservatives be?
Okay, so from a historical point of view, and polls are not as good of predictive values as some of the other indicators. There's not. From a historical point of view, pre-coronavirus, the likelihood of a Democratic trifecta was nil. It was like nil. I mean, maybe they would make some gains in the Senate and some of the seats for instance, I don't know about Maine yet. I am so skeptical of that. But Mark Kelly's a very strong candidate against Martha McSally. Doug Jones is done, though, so he'll offset that. He's finished. He knows it. It's a better map for Democrats this time around. And it is not uncommon for an incumbent to win re-election and people to still split their tickets. The problem is we've become less and less of a ticket-splitting electorate, right? So the likelihood of it pre-pandemic was basically nil. At the height of the coronavirus pandemic, it looked like it was bad news for Republicans. But a month in politics, right? That's why when you look at even February, March, right? Trump was overwhelmingly the favorite. I don't care what the polls showed. He's overwhelmingly the favorite. It is very hard to defeat an incumbent who's going into re-election with a strong economy. It's never happened in the 11 election cycles where we have to test that theory. All right. And there are two who bucked the flip side of that with recessions. But there were mitigating unprecedented factors there. So a month is a long time in politics. What is happening is Democrats want this race to be about coronavirus. Events that are apparently beyond their control. Because I'm not sure they can put their own militia back in the bag. I really don't. Like Don Lemon was saying on the clip we played. Maybe Joe Biden can make a speech or whatever. That speech isn't going to do it. And the truth is, they want those people to vote for them, so they don't want to piss them off. And things change. Politics, things could change 3 times before we get to the election again. A month is a long time in politics. I don't think the likelihood is where it is. And then the House, with even the election markets, the election betting odds right now are grossly underestimating Republicans' chances of taking back the House. Or if Donald Trump is reelected, it's almost a certainty that the House is gone. All right. I mean, it's almost a certainty. They don't need 30 seats. They have 31 targets, but they don't need 30. They need 18. That's it. Jeff Van Drew switched. And actually, it's even rosier. Mike Garcia won California 25. There is some problem with Republican benches, though. Like, they did not elect the strongest candidate to run against Alyssa Slotkin in Michigan 8. They just didn't. But on the flip side of that, there are now 2 districts in Florida that a month ago I would not have said are competitive, and they absolutely are. So, I mean, the House is very fluid. If Republicans have a good election and Trump has any wins, which right now there's something happening in the electorate that's running away from the Democrats. It's running away from them, and they can't stop it. And if I was Joe Biden, I mean, they could, but I'm not sure they have the courage to do what's necessary to stop it. If I was Joe Biden, I'd want a 5-point to 7-point lead in the popular vote to feel confident that I wasn't going to lose the Electoral College. Because if it's a 3-point race, a 4-point race, Donald Trump can win the Electoral College. There's just no doubt, especially with that realignment that we're talking about. It's a close race is Donald Trump's. I really do believe that. And by the way, most Democrats believe that too, which is why they want to count ballots for at least 72 hours after the election. I mean, we have now spoken to 2 Democrats who believe Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, Democrats in Pennsylvania, who believe Donald Trump will have a lead in the state of Pennsylvania on election night. That's why they want 3 days. So I just don't think it's as likely as it was a month ago, but things change. So that's my cautionary tale for you. If the economy continues to rebound the way it is rebounding, and coronavirus becomes less and less of a concern, which we'll be watching like a hawk over the next, well, we're starting now, but we'll know how much of a shift there's been in about 2 weeks. If that becomes less and less of a concern, Democrats are in deep trouble. They're in deep trouble. I mean, that's just it. But if it doesn't and it pops back and the media keeps dragging it on, that's a different story. All right, let me kill myself. Give Laura the...
King of Jerusalem wants to know, the Biden campaign is being yelled at about losing Latino support, but he doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. Do they just think that they don't need them in their coalition?
One thing I've always found about Democrats that was kind of rather disgusting to me, I mean, really, is that your importance in society will rise and fall with the electoral map. Okay. At first, Latinos were a growing percentage of the population, so they essentially gave black voters second-tier status for a while. And now they feel, in 2016, they felt that they had enough Latino voters, that there was just not enough white people anymore to stop them from winning the Electoral College. They really felt that way. I'm not kidding. That's why it was such a shock to them that they lost. That's why Van Jones went on, this was a white lash. You know, that is the kind of mentality that breeds those kinds of those kinds of comments. They really did believe it was not electorally or mathematically possible for a Republican to win enough white votes. Now they have some whites they see moving back into their camp. So they're trying to not make such an overt effort to go after them. They also don't believe a lot of the polling. They don't think Donald Trump is going to carry a significantly higher share of the black vote. They're not sure. They believe Donald Trump's numbers are really around approaching 40% with Hispanics. They're just not sure they believe that yet. And then also to what they do, whereas his comments said that they're not really doing anything about it. Well, in their mind, they are. Michelle Obama lying about the kids in cages during her speech. Joe Biden with the neo-Nazi lie. That in their mind is all they have to do, to tell lies and scare. And they figure that's enough. So I'm skeptical. I think people make rational policy choices. You know, I don't. Of course, fear is a very powerful motivator. It is. It absolutely is. But in the end, you know,
When you overdo it,
you can overdo it. Yeah, you can overdo it. You really can. And I mean, when the former first lady, a leftist, is getting fact-checked by a leftist organization the night after her speech, it's not a good look. You know, you overdid it. And so I just named those fact checks, by the way. It's such a joke the last couple of days. It's such a joke. All right, but let me give Laura the floor here.
I just find it ironic when liars try to fact check people. The irony is just something. But that's besides the point. Nutlet wants to know, my question is about AOC's popularity. Do you believe she's so popular because people like her ideas? Is it because she's young, cute, and good at social media? Sorry, I don't like her. I think she's a fraud just in general. But go ahead, Rich. Take it away.
So the woman is a fraud. Laura is from the Bronx. That woman is not from the Bronx. All right. She's Jenny from Yorktown Heights. That's who she is. Okay. Right. Where she is popular now, I mean, she has done better in her district, although, look, that's machine politics at its worst in that district. Even Rashida Tlaib, she outperformed how many people actually liked her. Both of them got decent electorates for them because among the people they are popular with, they get them out. All right. Like Brenda Jones, she did not get out the older black voters that she needed to get out to make it a race. Otherwise, she could have made it a race. But nationally, as a whole, she's unpopular. But among that younger group of people, she is. So it's still smart to run against her and the squad in general because you're not really trying to flip her district. I don't like to call any place a lost cause, but as somebody who is, you know, from New York City, there are just some areas that are lost causes. I mean, they're machine politics. They will fail. They're on their way to failing now. They will fail, and it's sad for the residents who live there. But in the end, you get the kind of government you deserve. She is unpopular enough, and so is her entire squad. You should definitely run against her. But people, no matter what you say, and really to answer your question more specifically, she has given, you may not like the ideas, but she does have plans. She has put forward plans, and she's elevated the importance of issues that she finds she believes will help her achieve her goals. All right. So climate change and whatever, Medicare for all, she has actually put forward plans. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who kind of just scoff and laugh at these issues. And they are marginal issues, but they're marginal issues that millions of Americans do care about. And if you're the only one making an argument, which is why I was like, Mitch McConnell, he'll mock her on Twitter or something, or, the Green New Deal. Well, what the hell is your plan, Mitch? So people, even there are tons of Republicans who love the environment, love it. In Florida, for people who are from Florida or not, just to tell you, Florida Republicans are extremely pro-green. They have been green for a long time, and it was very smart how they encompassed that into the Republican platform. The National Republican brand has not gotten there yet. It's still filled with these, relatively not smart old white guys who just don't understand the new America they're living in. And so sometimes it really is just like winning the argument by default because you're the only one playing the game. So you're the only one who could win. If you're the only one who shows up to the ring, then you win by default, right? But then your opponent forfeited by not showing up to the fight. And that is, I'm sad to say, that's some of her genius, is that grabbing those issues that she almost, not her, but the people around her knew nobody would even want to respond to.
All right, Witchfinder, are we in the midst of a preference cascade? It feels like something has changed in the last 2 weeks. Biden cratering, riots, and the great RNC.
Yeah, so that's my goal this week, to find out whether this is, statistical noise, normal bumps. The incumbent president gets bumps typically. More, there's been some real big ones out there. I'm tending to lean with what he's saying. I feel like this is maybe a pivot point. Now, politics, again, long, a couple weeks, a long time in politics, but it's hard. Those clips of the people I showed you before, it's hard to change their mind again. Once you have given them the impression that you endorse something like this, or you at least at the very best, you don't have the courage to do anything about it. Once you become that in someone's mind, it's very hard to undo that. And I just feel like there are, and have been for 4 years, and even in 2016, there's a ton of the electorate who does not like Donald Trump. They don't like him. But they look at some of these really, the gravity of some of the challenges that we face. And they have said, he's just the right guy to deal with it. He's the better guy to deal with it. Joe Biden is not going to handle this problem. Hillary Clinton, she's never going to roll back TPP. And by the way, wait until Donald Trump they just started to touch on Joe Biden's trade argument. And that's why, also too, we kind of showed you Connor Lamb, his thoughts on this. Connor Lamb, Ed Rendell, other Democrats, they don't think Joe Biden can win the state of Pennsylvania because you can't vote for all of these crappy items and then expect to be able to convince people you're a brand new man. You haven't been back to Biden town in decades. You've just been shafting us and selling us out the entire time. Donald Trump delivered. In the end, that 12%, they're going to marinate on that. And they're going to go into the ballot box and they're going to say, you know what? He did what he told me he would do. I'm not changing direction. So that's what's up with all the fear there. They have to pump this fear because they have to scare you or shame you into not thinking that can't be the only decision that is weighing in your mind. Because if it is, Donald Trump wins hands down. So they have to insert into your brain, am I a bad person too? Does this make me a bad person because they told me all of this terrible stuff about him? And so far, the problem is they're really doing a good job answering that. And I'm leaning towards, I knew this race was, we're just in a polarized country. It was always going to tighten, but I just feel like I didn't expect it to tighten this early. I didn't. Didn't tighten until 2016, Laura. The state polls really did not start to tighten until that group of voters, and they're bigger in some states than in others. In Michigan, it was a lot. In Wisconsin, it was a lot. Pennsylvania, it really wasn't. It was always a close race. I don't know what the hell the media was talking about. It was always a close race, and then Donald Trump took independence by 4 points and it put him just a little bit over. That's it. All right, let's see about another one.
All right, at Fake Charles wants to know, is Lindsey Graham in trouble? And another viewer also as well.
To the extent Lindsey Graham, there has been some polling that shows Lindsey Graham in a little bit of trouble. That this has actually happened before. South Carolina, this happens. Democrats think they may have a chance there. Some of the polling seems to indicate that. It's a difficult state to poll. Even the Democratic primary polls were absolutely terrible. In the end, Lindsey Graham's going to win. All right. He's in trouble right now because of the stupid kind of stuff I mocked him for yesterday. So he says James Comey's going to give his political speech today. He's going to rip on the president and everybody else who defends him, like Lindsey Graham, right? Meanwhile, there's like a wealth of evidence against James Comey. Nobody's doing a damn thing about it. Adam Schiff issues subpoenas. Lindsey Graham sends invitations. RSVP, Mr. Comey. So there's a group of people in South Carolina who almost want to see Lindsey just go down. Just because. But in the end, they're not going to let him go down because they're going to say the alternative is worse. Yeah. And same thing with Meadows' seat, by the way. Mark Meadows' seat will revert back to the mean. That's 7% undecided. They'll vote for it's just not a strong candidate. They'll vote for most of them. Will vote for the Republican, and it won't be as close as people think.
All right, Goldman Jeff wants to know, has Pelosi overplayed her rhetoric game with swing voters?
Oh, man. Laura, how could we have forgotten? So what is he talking about?
Interfere in our election. But they're not the only ones. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress of the United States. But again, let's just get out there and mobilize, organize, and not let the president deter anybody from voting. And again, support the postal system, which is election central. They're doing everything they can. Suppress the vote with your actions, scare people, intimidate by saying law enforcement will be there, diminish the role of the postal system in all of this. It's really actually shameful. Enemies of the state.
Madam Speaker, you brought up the...
Have another drink, Nancy. Have another drink. You drink too much. I don't know. But anyway, she's gone. Yeah. If you look at, I actually find Nancy Pelosi's favorability rating nationally to be pretty interesting. So Chuck Schumer's was worse last time we did it, and that was a little bit sharp. But this is why. Pelosi is very, very, very liked in these blue areas that are very populated. Pelosi is absolutely hated in battleground America. So the best thing she could do is just not talk. I'm serious. When she says things like that, like enemies of the state, like where's the Russia collusion evidence we've all been promised and we have been still waiting on? She is a liability to the Democratic Party. They can't win any more state districts in California. All right. They just can't. So I don't know why. And plus, she's becoming a visibly effective, optically ineffective leader, right? So she was already not well liked. And then as she has, look, she's gotten weaker politically. over the last couple of years. You would think she got the gavel back, she'd be stronger. She's not. That actually made her. The squad is that's real. I can tell you. I know. I was in the middle of Michigan 13. Brenda Jones was her friend. They had a history together. She got punked, man. She got punked by Rashida Tlaib. And in the end, she backed her. So she's weak now. But yeah, she has totally lost her mind. And in battleground America, people can't even stand. People can't stand her in Ohio. People can't stand her in Pennsylvania. People can't stand her in Florida. They hate her. They cannot stand Nancy Pelosi in Florida. So if you're a Republican, you want Nancy to keep making comments like that. You really do.
All right. Let's see. Who should we go to? Chip wants to know, are you seeing any numbers from second day of viewership?
I did notice the ratings numbers for the first night as far as TV, cable, and network showed similar problems that the DNC did, but we're talking about different kinds of viewers and in the markets, right? So woke America watched the DNC and the media, and basically nobody else did. The streams were terrible. The C-SPAN streams, 76,000. That's it. 6 times the amount watched the RNC on C-SPAN, which are, and I don't mean this in a bad way, just true. C-SPAN viewers and live stream watchers tend to be a little bit more high information. So there are also people who tend to want to maybe weigh their decision a little bit more seriously. That's just reality. Don't mad at me, I'm just saying. So where the RNC has done better, clearly you can see the online numbers. While they're about the same with cable and network news, maybe a little bit better. But I think what's happening here is that you can see that Republicans and people who are persuadable voters, they're kind of, which is good for Republicans, they're tuning out network and cable news people because they're really not seeing that much of a disparity. Night 2, Nielsen will drop that. They may have just dropped it 2 minutes ago, so I didn't see it yet. Between, I think, noon and 2 p.m., Nielsen will drop their ratings for the RNC. But again, from what we saw yesterday with the online stuff, we'll look at Yahoo, we'll look at live streams, and again, Right Side Broadcasting, they take 100,000 viewers by themselves. So those are people that you would otherwise think would watch Fox News, One America News, that you have to factor into it. So if Republicans are doing just as good in network and cable news, but having such a larger audience online, then it's bad news for Democrats. It shows that there's no enthusiasm. And if it wasn't for network and cable news, the DNC nobody would even have known it existed. Nobody was watching online. They just weren't.
All right. Irish Girl wants to know, what do you think of Donald Trump's 50-point plan for second term agenda?
I'm not a huge fan of like these 50-point plan things. He had a pretty good one in 2016. Mitt Romney was ridiculous with his. That's really, I get what he's trying to do. I just don't think, in the end, his ability to convey the themes of that plan will be more important than writing the plan down itself. All right. So the themes of it are good. Yeah. But you literally don't want. Yeah. So Michael, I guess the Rasmussen is out. I was not allowed to say it. I was embargoed. But I always, we know each other. So I know what the responses from last night looked like. He did hit a little bit of a pothole yesterday on approval, but it could just be that he had a spike and now he's back down to relative normality. 4750 is incumbent territory. That's what it was last night. The overnight responses. Actually, let me just double check to make sure that's not the 3-day because I get both. Yeah, so he had a bit of a high negativity index yesterday, last night, but it could just be, it's a rolling average. So it could be noise like the high approval last week was just noise. Oh, all in all, 4751. All right. So what they're talking about is that Biden now, his lead it's gone. All right. So he had I think a 10-point lead when they started out. It's a wrap. So, and if you look inside the poll, which I got this earlier, some of the biggest shifts now, Donald Trump is leading with white voters by 4 points. All right. He's essentially tied with independents, where Biden had an edge with independents. This is the one poll where Biden was carrying independents. That has not been the totality of polling data. Donald Trump is carrying independents. It's just that a lot of these other polls are packing the Democrats up. So, or though when you see they are carrying independents, the share of the independent vote is so big that they put Democrats in the independent. They didn't wait. Right. All right. Now Donald Trump has retaken the lead among white voters, and he is holding a sizable chunk of his non-white vote share that we have been talking about. He still trails with women by 7 points, but that working class vote, they put together the millennials, or not even anymore, 18 to 29 and 30 to 39. They put them together. We don't do that. We go 18 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 65, and 65 plus. Why? Because we know what they are. We know where they really fall into, but that's exit polling. So we try to stay as consistent. We do try to stay as consistent with exit polling as we can, because that is the best way to project. And when you look back in historical vote preferences, you can, if you have apples to apples to compare, it allows you to project better. All right. And also to project who the electorate is going to be more accurately. All right. So they have almost that vote group, 18 to 40 is tied up. That's supposed to be a stronger Democratic voting group. Why is that? Younger workers. They're moving to Trump. Like we told you, they're moving to Trump. All right. Now Trump is carrying the 40 to 64 category, but Biden still has a lead with seniors, but it's not a big lead anymore. It's only 9 points. That's absolutely flippable. All right. So yeah, that's what's going on there. And people will come out. They'll trash this Rasmussen poll. Okay. They will trash the hell out of it. But the fact of the matter is, it's apples to apples. It's apples to apples. All right. He gained 3 points. Biden dipped 1. All right. Which is what, again, I'm trying to tell you. This is more than just Biden's falling. Biden is falling and Trump is rising. Looks like a Zogby poll is Trump at 52. I'm telling you, it could be a bounce. We'll see, folks. And I'll let you know. I'll look over the next 2 weeks and I'll see if it's just a bounce. But this is inside. If you look inside, this is not good. Not good for Joe Biden. It was +5. He got no bounce. And now it is only +1. The president didn't even make a speech yet. It's bad. Anyone telling you otherwise is full of it. If I was on Team Biden, I would be very concerned right now. I'd be on my hands and knees. Get the hell out of your basement. You look like a coward. You look weak. It could be, Chip. It could be. If this continues to go, it could become a situation where it's like an unstoppable train. Because we've seen this happen. This happened to Michael Dukakis in 1988, by the way.
And he was wondering about the Indies.
Yeah, and I did see the other CBS poll. Wendy's are wide in there. They are moving to Trump at low to mid single digits right now. CBS's prior poll was only +5 Trump. This one is +10. So Indies have moved to Trump by 5 points. The reason why they still have Biden up, Laura, is because they pack so many Democrats in that poll. Not only Democrats, but Metro Republicans, because he's not going to take that much of the Republican vote share. He's not.
He's saying if he doesn't come out of the basement, the Indies are going to probably go to.
Yeah. Chuck Todd's hair was on fire yesterday. What happened to Chuck? I'll tell you probably what happened to Chuck. He sees it. They all see it. And they're not releasing these polls. And they're not releasing the polling the way they would have released it if Joe Biden had a lead or he was widening it out. I just got another one. Trafalgar is Wisconsin, Trump +1. This is bad. this is bad. Well, it's good for you guys if you support Donald Trump. But if you're a Biden supporter, you better start wicking them around those sirens. This is bad news. I'm telling you, women are shifting to Donald Trump. Independents are shifting to Donald Trump. Men are widening out their margin for Donald Trump. This is not good. And this is what is the problem. Whites are moving back to Donald Trump. Maybe he won't carry them by the margin he carried them last time, but they're moving back to Donald Trump. And I have not seen the Hispanic or black votes that he has pulled in budge yet. Now, could be a bounce. I want to stress this. Could be a bounce. Could not be. Could not be. Look, sometimes I'm full of it. So I'll say like, I didn't mean to say I told you so, but that's not really true. I told you so. But it could be, if he needed a bounce coming out of that convention, Laura, he needed a bounce. He did not get one. He didn't. He got a negative we're another one.
Well, since we're on that topic, if Biden hadn't trapped himself with his woman promise, would someone like a Tim Ryan or a Tim Walz have been a stronger running mate for him? Lamp wants to know.
Steve Bullock and the governor of Montana. Barnes and I have talked about this before quite a bit alone privately. I don't know why he didn't pick somebody like that. He was afraid I do know why, but the white vote, maybe would have helped with him at a decent margin. They were worried about the black vote. I don't think it was smart to pick Kamala, whatever her name is.
Harris. Just call her Harris.
And I will just say this, because we got to get some stuff out that we got on that didn't even start yet. There's a lot. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. And then he buckled to that letter at the last minute. It was a mistake. Yeah, I do think the governor of Montana would have been a decent, strong choice. Amy Klobuchar would have been a great pick. He just blew it, man. All right.
I got it. Go ahead. All right, I got your back. No problem. Joker wants to know, can Trump win the popular vote? But I also want to ask a question from Hector from Spain. Wants to know, hey, Hector. To voter security / election integrity, why the pushback to security measures? A system similar to that in the UK seems reasonable.
Answer Hector's question too. That's great. He could, for the popular vote. We are kind of trying to drum up scenarios where if it was a Trump win, a good election for Donald Trump, he could win the popular vote. This is what I'm thinking. California didn't like Joe Biden. They didn't. They liked, actually, Hillary Clinton more than they liked Joe Biden, which is great, right, Laura? Mm-hmm. They liked Bernie both times. However, they didn't dislike Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden's favorability was not great there. And it was the state that was among the most favorable to Bernie's agenda and unfavorable to the corporate kind of Democrat like Joe Biden is, which is what he is. He's a corporatist. All right. That could result in not a lower spread. The spread's going to be the spread probably, but a lower turnout. So LA really cranked out for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was also a United States senator from the state of New York, another state, big populous state that lopsides the popular vote. I absolutely could foresee Joe Biden not squeezing out as many votes out of the state of New York as the favorite hometown senator. If that happens and then this thing gets away from Biden, he loses Wisconsin by like 2 points, 3 points. He loses Pennsylvania by like 1.2 points. He loses Florida, 2 points, 3 points. Then we start to really, because Trump's alone is popular vote win in Florida was 140,000, something like that. He could widen that out. He definitely could. Florida is one of the states where pollsters are just god awful, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. Donald Trump is going to be very difficult to beat in Florida, even if when it was the way it was going. That's the way I could conceive of a popular vote win. But in the end, the Electoral College and the popular vote, the disparity is going to grow over time. And it doesn't matter who wins this time if it obfuscates the trend. The census data is clear. It is becoming, it's going to start tearing us apart. It is. That's unfortunate, but it's the direction we're headed. Mass immigration did this to California. Mass illegal immigration did this to the United States of America. And by the way, if they didn't do it over the last 30, 40 years, 2016 would not have been close. Not even close. It would have been Reagan-like landslide. All right? That's what keeps it. So the other second part. We've been through and let me see if I can show you guys my bullet points. Yeah, so there is the conclusion behind Hector, the wanting to put a moratorium on verification procedures. And when you take it, it's not just that. When you take the entire plan in totality. So one, everyone gets a ballot. Expand the potential pool of ballots that go out. Unsolicited ballot requests and unsolicited ballots themselves mailed out to people, whether or not the record is appropriate or not. All right. Even dead, change of address flags, change names, and other inactive voters will receive ballots and unsolicited ballot requests. 2, no verification procedures. Democrats do not want signature match or other verification standards often required by state law. All right. They want a moratorium on ballot harvesting in states where ballot harvesting is banned. When you put it all together, Hector, there is no innocent explanation. What they are trying to do is do what they've done in the past, but just inflate it a lot. Expand the pool of potential fraudulent, invalid ballots. Have nobody check whether or not they're signed by the appropriate person or whether or not we're getting what is called double counting, right? So you leave a state, you go to another state, you're still on the record in the old state. It's okay if Joe Biden's get out the vote operation fills it out and sends it back in. You'll never know. You're in the new state. You'll request your ballot. You'll vote in the other state. All right. That'll happen. It is going to happen. Ballot harvesters, of course, make this job a lot easier because we're expanding that pool. We're finding a whole lot more ballots to play with. And then we need an army to go and get them. All right. And even in states where they lost some of these rules, they still are having like what are essentially de facto ballot harvesters do it anyway. All right. Let's get one more question. And then I'm going to run to, that was a great question, Hector. And I'm going to run to my questionnaire. And because now you guys got me totally in the mood to poll. So I want to get back to my polls. All right. All right. Two more.
Yes. Sorry. I don't know if you guys heard that excitement. I was showing the numbers that I wanted. All right. So Lemon Minty. Who are some surprise players we need to keep our eye on who are not yet known for the RNC?
That's a great question. What I am telling you, and it is known already, I just think it's so important. I want to tell you, these speeches have been so good that this speech right here by Alice Johnson could turn out to be an absolute, what's a dam breaker, right? Because for instance, some of these people were just so much better than anybody thought they were going to be, right? John Ponder, very explosive. Alice Johnson is going to go out there and speak. If anybody has the ability to sway, because black men are the persuadable group, working black men between the ages of 30 and 45. All right. And then others too, but working black men between the ages of 30 and 45. If anybody has a potential to swing some of those more loyally Democrat black women who don't like what they see, they don't want their businesses burned to the ground, they don't want their children in harm's way, they don't want to defund the police, okay, then Alice Johnson's the one who could do it. And I'm putting that up. And did I get the roster? Let's see. They send you, here it is. All right. So we do know who is known already. I mean, that's the thing, right? Scott Dane. All right. He's the executive director of Associated Contract Loggers and Truckers of Minnesota. That's another one. Keep your eye on. I wouldn't normally say this, but some of these people have put on amazing speeches, and they have been some of the most effective speeches have come from non-political people. Non-political people. There's, again, that's really who I would see do it. I thought Kellyanne Conway, she's got a speech tonight too. I thought Kellyanne Conway could have the potential to give a pretty good speech. I know there's a lot of people don't hate. It's just the direction that she chooses to go in. For those of you who don't know, she's the first woman ever to be the campaign manager of a successful presidential campaign. She has never gotten the credit for that. Burgess Owens is going to speak tonight. He is a candidate, but again, we're really hammering at the same theme of diversity here and what they're talking about. After Herschel Walker, I mean, it could be something. I mean, there's really a ton of like little. Alice Johnson though is the speech that I'm waiting for. She's tomorrow, I believe. Let me just double check that. She's tomorrow. Tonight, I would watch Scott Dane. All right, see if that one comes out to be something big. Kristi Noem is a rock star. That everyone's so stupid. Everyone in media, they're like, Laura, Nikki Haley is I swear I saw this. Nikki Haley is the presumptive frontrunner of the 2024 Republican nomination. If Kristi Noem runs, she's done. Are you kidding me? Nikki Haley's not even going to come in third. All right, because it'll be Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis battling it out, because he is another one who could run for president. And he's from a battleground state, huge battleground state. And he's like DeSantis' last approval number that we saw was like 64%. So, that's who I would stick with, those two tonight. Michael McHale, he's a law enforcement union that backed Trump over Biden. Doesn't happen often. That's another one, because we're talking about sticking with that theme. But tomorrow, guys, that Alice Johnson one is really the one that I've seen her speak before. She's a very likable woman, and really just seems like a very good-hearted woman. I could really see that be a strong speech that, and what I mean by dam breaker is, that would make it much, 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 much harder to paint Trump as the racist that they've been trying to paint him as. All right, that was the second question, wasn't it? What about Hector? Oh, you stuck 2 questions in that. Look at you. All right, let's go. One more. You sneaky.
All right. Felice wants to know about first-time gun buyers, 2.5 million from January through July. How will they vote in November, given the reason they went out and bought a gun?
Wow, I can't believe he asked that question. All right, let me just read you some. Oh, what was it?
Felice.
Okay. Felice, here we go. Hold on. Give me 1 second, Felice, because I want to answer it like in a very special way here. Excuse me. I'm scrolling, Felice. I'm scrolling. Question 16. Hold on.
Me.
All right. Question 16 on the Epoch Times Big Data Poll National Political Survey. Have you or anyone in your household purchased a firearm in the last 3 months? I will let you know, Felice, in a little bit, about a week. All right. That is actually on our questionnaire. That's funny. So I don't want to, I don't never jump to conclusions. I want to tell you. So, so I want to tell you actual data, so give me a little bit. I swear, stick with the show. I'll tell you. And then once we start, folks, wrapping in like a week of data collection, okay, then this will become like, this is what I got today. This is what I got today. Here's the new stuff this morning. And that's what we're going to turn it into. And then the totality of the results will be released when they release their polling, right? And that will be beginning of the month, middle of the month, beginning of the month, and sometimes I'm sure it'll come in like at the end of the month, but we'll collect and we won't stop. We'll just keep tracking. So that's what the show will come to. So if Felice comes and says, hey, how'd that question look yet last night? You'll be able to do that. And I'll show it to you, Felice.
Ooh.
I'll show it to you.
I'm wrong. It is a he.
Oh, I thought you said.
I must have said it wrong. Sorry, Mr. Lepore.
I knew it was a guy. I knew. And now Felice. No, okay, whatever. Either way. So now we got it. All right. So hope that helps. And then you'll be able to ask me, like I said, and we'll have something updated. All right. You just made my day. I was hoping you would ask that question. I just saw that in the corner of my eye. You are most welcome. You make my day by coming here and listening every day. Laura's got her hand up. What's up?
Well, since technically you didn't fully answer that question because you have to wait, J.K. Locke wants to know, do you think there's a chance GDP, sorry, his face, guys, if you could see what I see. Do you think there is a chance GDP ends up positive for all 4 quarters this year?
You mean the annual rate? I do, because the first quarter got hurt. It's -5. It got hurt by the last minute stay-at-home orders that really were right at the end of that quarter. As ugly as the second quarter looks, it is not as bad as some of the forecasts were suggesting. All right. The third quarter could be, I have never seen numbers like this before. Look at durable goods just this morning. These numbers are huge. And generally speaking, the indicators are now becoming pre-pandemic levels. So because it's relative, well, in the second quarter, it fell 25%, whatever it may be, 32%, whatever it ends up being. Some of them were way worse, and we all know what the numbers were. We went over them. And then the third quarter could wipe away itself, could wipe away. And, if the fourth quarter is Joe Biden, or because it really will be anticipation, just like some things began to rise when Donald Trump won. It wasn't, his policies weren't implemented yet. But if Joe Biden wins, we're going to go in a deep recession. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're going to go in a very deep recession. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to sway votes. I'm coming at it from an absolute numbers point of view. He will kill wage growth. That will hurt the housing market. He will take the revenue to the treasury is going to fall, and tax avoidance will increase again. It started to decrease because of Donald Trump. And these businesses, first the payroll tax cut's going to go. I mean, it will happen. It will happen. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that as a way to damage people's opinions of. I'm not trying to sway votes. I'm simply doing it from a numbers point of view. And I could show you how we come to them. All right. Which, go to peoplespunditdaily.com. Type in Biden plan and read the analysis yourself. All right. And I think, honestly, we were being rather generous. Tax Foundation, I think they were being rather generous. It could be worse, because what tends to happen with these problems economically, they compound. And that's hard to score. That's hard to gauge, right? I really do believe this with all my heart. If Joe Biden wins, our economy is going to go into deep recession. All right, but all right, that's the wrap. It's 12:28.
Yeah, you
what?
answered this question, but I guess
GDP is the answer. Is I do think.
No. About the Biden in the basement strategy.
Oh yeah, thanks for bringing that. She said the Biden in the basement. Go ahead.
All right. What I was just saying is the Biden in the basement strategy question, where if he continues to stay in the basement and not debate the POTUS about the independents and how they're going to go and vice versa.
I think if Joe Biden, and he will try to avoid debating Donald Trump, especially if he thinks he's still got a lead, or the media dupes him into thinking he's still got a lead, a big one, he won't debate the president. He won't. And I think eventually he'll come across looking like a weakling, and it will hurt. It'll be Dukakis ugly. And in the end, he could only win. This strategy could only have worked if coronavirus remained the top concern and things were not good. So far, indications are people don't really blame Donald Trump for the economic impact from the coronavirus. They don't. That may change, but right now it's looking like they don't. So that's a problem. And then they can't stretch this out forever. If the election was last month and the coronavirus was at the heat of its thing, folks, it could get worse for Joe Biden's strategy of hiding in the basement. What is today? I only am saying this because I know people involved in the effort. Donald Trump could walk out in 6 weeks with a vaccine. Then what? Then what? All right. So that's that. I mean, things change a lot. Things change. Yeah, even if he doesn't, it will be hard to draw this out. But I know, because I'm telling you, as you know, I don't want to get into it. We know people who are on. Well, I don't want to. We have a very good source, and it's not. It's going to be difficult to drag this out. All right. So that's all I'm saying. But all right, it is 12:30. Let's end it right here, guys. We'll be back 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Don't forget, folks. Don't forget to like the page on People's Pundit Daily on Facebook before you go or when you go, and don't forget to like or subscribe to it on YouTube. Best way, of course, to support the show is to subscribe to PPD on the website, which of course is by going to PPD News, the short link, ppdnews.us/subscribe. I'll play it during the end. ppdnews.us/subscribe. Big Media Hate Machine is becoming a hashtag, and so is Media Handicap. And by the way, so is Inside the Numbers. All three have been auto-populating for me. So that's awesome. You guys are doing that. Don't let them get away with trying to divide us. All right? Let's go tomorrow night. We'll analyze day 3 of the RNC. All right. And then ultimately we'll take it out for the rest of the week on day 4. What are the odds with Barnes? That's going to be on Friday. Don't miss me tonight at 7:30, right before the RNC pops off. Quite frankly. All right. I will tweet it out. I'll be on with Frank. We'll discuss the RNC. We'll discuss the election. Great interview always with Frank. All right. It was a great show. I love going on it. I really do. And Frank, by the way, is a good guy. And there aren't many of them in this business. All right. And then Glenn, New York City Guns. All right. Again, I'll tweet that one too. All right. So I'll be on 7:30. Then when I get off, we'll watch the RNC together. I'll tweet Glenn's show. He had some great commentary yesterday, The Rise of the Irishman. And we'll come back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll talk it over. We'll see what the Republicans got in store for us tonight. All right, folks. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at @peoples_pundit. Follow PPD at PPD News. All right, all the best. See you in 24 hours, 22 hours.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be your bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette.